Recently, I heard a passing comment about the kind of culture that values certainty over curiosity, that avoids interrogating its own assumptions at all costs, and I think I'm probably the 11,000th person to point this out, but it struck me, an ex-evangelical myself, that evangelical Christianity, at least in America, hinges on certainty, and a lot of things about evangelicalism that might at first blush seem to make no sense make a lot more sense when viewed through the lens of certainty. And that's what I'd like to explore. Hey everybody, and to all of my new subscribers, welcome! I'm totally stoked you guys are here already. It's like I'm so kind of a YouTuber now. This is weird. Okay, without further ado, let's just get into the video. I think it's very telling that people in countries like the United States, both evangelical and not, seem to conflate religious faith with certainty of a very specific kind. When I was an evangelical, I was no different. I think part of what makes leaving evangelicalism so traumatic, even apart from the shame and the self-loathing and the masochism and the being an outcast, is the loss of that certainty. Now, when I say certainty, what I mean is an attitude, a stance along the lines of not I already know everything, but the more subtle and insidious I already know everything I need to know. Now, obviously, there's plenty of this to go around the ideological sphere. Evangelicals are far from the only people to claim that they already know everything that's relevant about somebody's gender, for example, based on what is or isn't between their legs or on their chest, and all this psychobabble about identity, and all this wailing about dysphoria, and this philosophical jabber about performativity is completely unnecessary because we already know everything we need to know. Case closed. Thus, certainty as described actively discourages inquiry, conversation, growth, and further learning. Certainty makes the world an easy place to live in because everything fits neatly into boxes. Certainty lets you feel justified in dismissing anything or anyone who doesn't neatly fit those boxes. Certainty gives you the reward, not just of being right, but of being in some way morally better because of being right. And certainty is very, very much about control. Not just controlling people's behavior, although it certainly includes that, but more fundamentally just making the world around them a manageable, you might say bite-sized place to live. Now, before anybody gets the wrong impression, there are obviously plenty of belief frameworks other than evangelical Christianity that function on certainty. However, that certainty manifests in very specific ways in evangelicalism, ways with which I personally am very familiar. I think there's a misconception that the problem with people who embrace religious forms of trans and queer phobia, racism and xenophobia, misogyny, ableism, contempt for the poor, and all the rest is that they take the Bible and or their faith too seriously. But I think it has more to do with an approach to the Bible and faith driven by certainty, and I think it can be useful and instructive to take a look at how it works. One of the most famous biblical narratives is the one in Genesis 3 that's been called the fall in the garden. There's a key moment in that narrative where, in most English translations at least, the serpent asks Eve a question beginning with the words, "Did God really say?" And then he goes on to say to her, "No, that's not true." For the evangelical, the significant turning point of that story is when the serpent manages to make Eve uncertain of what God said, to make her doubt God, and therefore, having made her uncertain, gets her to mess it all up. Now yes, most evangelicals do believe that this story quite literally happened, but more importantly, it also neatly symbolizes what the evangelical sees as the fundamental human failure from which all other human failures are born. In this evangelical reading of the fall, Eve was made to doubt what God said, to doubt God, which to the evangelical mind are synonymous, and thus the fall. There is another evangelical and in fact more generally traditional Christian reading of the scene, and that's the danger of female initiative and male assent to female initiative, but that's for another video. In this reading, curiosity is explicitly a threat, because curiosity can be seen in a way as a form of doubt. When believing in God is conflated with being sure of your true beliefs about things in the Bible and not having doubt, asking questions will obviously be conflated with having less faith in God, which is a dangerous place to be. After all, so goes evangelical reasoning, that was Adam and Eve's fundamental flaw, that they were curious about knowing good from evil. In fact, they already had all the information that they needed from God. Well, Adam did, but again, whole other video. But the foundational question is, why would you be curious when you already have all the information that you need to know? Which, of course, rests on the assumption that the Bible contains all the information that you need to know. Certainty prizes knowing the right things. In evangelical terms, getting the Bible right and getting reality and God right, which are obviously synonymous in the evangelical mind. Naturally, it follows that the most dangerous error is to get something wrong about the Bible, which again is synonymous with getting God wrong, which is why so much evangelical effort is expended in the act of policing one another's doctrines. Think about it. Part of what it means to care for your fellow religious people in a mindset like this is to make sure that they're believing the right things, all the right things all the time. Part of what it means to show care, true care for the non-Christian or the non-evangelical Christian, is to make them aware of their informational errors as soon as possible and make sure that they can form to right thinking. Because for the evangelical, salvation begins with right knowledge and right thinking. As I hope you can see, it is for this reason that there are street preachers and neighborhood evangelists. It is for this reason that there are YouTube channels like Girl Defined, Paul and Morgan, Alan Parr, and so many others. Now, of course, many of these kinds of people will say that they welcome disagreement, and on some small points, such as whether or not to be baptized by immersion or by sprinkling, they very well do. But to really disagree with an evangelical, with a representative of any framework driven by certainty, is to be wrong. And to be wrong is to be both dangerous and in danger. And this is the crisis of certainty. Its eternal shadow is always that anxiety and fear, especially in those moments where, for any myriad of reasons, you think, even for a split second, that you could be wrong. And though it may seem like a paradox, the greatest enemy of evangelical certainty is the act of attentively and actively reading the Bible. Because the Bible, as it turns out, is not a text that accommodates certainty or final simplistic answers. But, once again, that's for another video. Wow, thanks for watching my first actual content video. I hope you enjoyed it. As you can tell, I am still learning the mechanics of putting a video together, step by step. I am getting there, and I am glad for your patience with me. See you next video. I hope you will consider subscribing, even though this is a very new thing for me. And at the very least, I hope you will consider leaving a like on the video. Thank you very much. Oh hey, by the way, I also have a new Patreon. I don't have a lot on it yet. Right now I only have one tier that grants access to a new Discord server I set up, and you will also get your name in the end credits. That will be patreon.com/Elvella Rambles. That's patreon.com/Elvella Rambles. And if you'd like to just make a one-time donation instead of an ongoing one, I also have a Ko-fi. That will be ko-fi.com/Elvella Rambles. Once again, that's ko-fi.com/Elvella Rambles. I will not be eligible for monetization here for a good while. So if you'd like to support this fledgling project, those are some great ways to do it. Other than, of course, likes and subscribes and things. Okay, thank you very much. That's it for today. Accept that the correct answer to the baptism question is immersion. All the baptisms in the New Testament are done by immersion. That's the end of the conversation.